Hello and good evening. Welcome to my lecture, Reuse and Repurpose. As Cynthia said, I'm Dawn Arena, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about why is it important for us all to do our part in reusing and repurposing items daily. The fact that we are outgrowing the world, that we are using up expendable resources, and everybody should be encouraged to open our eyes and become aware of the vast potential of the everyday things we have around us. I think using things and awakening people's aesthetic to the fact that you can repurpose, reuse, redesign, reapply a lot of the things that we normally let go into the trash recycling chain as art supplies are a bit of a payback. My art is about giving what already exists to give new life to the old craft and all kinds of different recycled things. My whole life I've been painting and sculpting and respecting the thought of taking care of what you have. In my current work, I mainly use discarded flatware, forks, knives, and spoons. Here's an example. A discarded plate and selected flatware have become a small bird relief. This is known as upcycling. Recycling versus reusing, what's the difference? They are two very different things. Recycling is the process of taking an item, dividing it into its individual materials, and reprocessing it to create a different material or item. Reusing or upcycling is when you keep that item intact, but use it for another purpose. Recycling generally is a three-step process: collecting and processing, manufacturing, and buying and selling new products. That relies on several different parties to participate, from the public to the industry. And this process consumes energy, a lot of it. And recycling still produces waste, unlike reusing in the process, from taking materials and reprocessing it to create a different material or item. Reusing, on the other hand, works differently and does not consume the same amount of energy in dismantling that item. Most of the time, you add new material to it, such as paint, for example. Finally, you are not relying on third parties. On our planet Earth, I believe that everything is connected, and therefore we should care and be mindful of everything we use in our everyday lives. The Earth breathes with us. Reusing is better than recycling because it saves the energy that comes with having to dismantle and remanufacture products. It also significantly reduces waste and pollution because it reduces the need for raw materials, saving both forests and water supplies. And speaking of water, there is a gyre of garbage between Hawaii and California called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's also known as the Pacific Trash Vortex. It is one of 5 known in the world. It's huge, 161,000 miles long. It's 3 times the size of France, twice the size of Texas. Fishing nets account for 45% of this particular patch. It was discovered in 1997 by a racing boat captain, Charles Moore. Returning from a trans-Pacific race, he and his crew were met by an undulating trash heap with plastic junk bobbing in the ocean for as far as the eye could see. In 2018, scientists wanted to know more about the items floating in the patch, so they took a close look at the trash, and here's what they found. The patch was much larger than the scientists had thought. It is mostly made up of plastic, and the plastics weighed about 87,000 tons. That is 3 times as heavy as the Statue of Liberty. Most of the garbage is fishing gear, such as ropes and traps, and there are trillions of tiny pieces of plastic floating in the patch. Some of these can only be seen with a microscope. These pieces are called microplastics. Plastic can hurt or kill sea animals. Nets that get left behind float through the ocean, and whales and seals can get caught in these nets. Then they are not able to swim or eat. Scientists know that plastic pollution is a growing problem. It is one of the biggest threats to the seas. They said there could be 3 times or more plastic by 2050. And what can we do? Be responsible for all of your trash on land and water and dispose of items properly. Get involved, participate in local cleanups in your area, and remember that land and sea, no matter where you are connected. Reduce the amount of waste you produce. Reduce the amount of waste you produce and reuse items whenever possible. Choose reusable items over disposable ones. Recycle as much as possible. Bags and bottles, caps, cans, cell phones, ink cartridges, and many other items can be recycled. The people of Earth produce 380 million metric tons of plastic per year, 60% of which is less dense than seawater. At least 8 million pieces of plastic of what's produced, which is considered a safe estimate, enter the oceans every year. Fish and sea creatures ingest these microplastics, which we then eat. A 2018 study in the UK revealed that 100% of coastal mussels and those bought in supermarkets have microplastics in them. Research is ongoing as to how harmful microplastics are to the human body, but the grim reporting on their effect on sea life isn't encouraging. While some will still subscribe to the out-of-sight, out-of-mind mentality, the scale of the problem will inevitably reach U.S. shores if nothing is done. While some initiatives exist, like the trash-gobbling innovations devised from the ocean cleanup and the multinational beach cleanups from 4Ocean, NOAA states that eliminating these garbage patches completely may be impossible. But even as countries shirk responsibility, the anti-garbage patch technology is in its infancy. We're not helpless in stemming the rising storm. On an individual and business level, you can tap into the universal ethos for protecting our oceans from plastic. And we can simplify advocacy into 3 easy actions. Know your plastic symbols. Numbered 1 through 7, understanding plastics are accepted by your local hauler or where you might responsibly dispose of them is paramount. You can find this in your local solid waste collection manual. Break your reliance on the single-use plastics, like those found in food packaging. Plastic grocery bags and foam coffee cups are frequently littered. Finding opportunity to refuse or reuse certain items can make a sizable impact. Recycle more of it. For as easy as the waste industry hoped single-stream recycling would be, navigating it solo can be incredibly complicated. But there's still hope. Did you know that there are mushrooms that exist that consume polyurethane and converts it into organic matter? Scientists have discovered the microorganisms can play an important role in ridding the planet of waste plastic, as over 90 types of bacteria and fungi have the ability to degrade plastic. The mycelium of Pestilopsis microspora can eat plastic products as its food source and survive without light or air. This makes it a marvelous mushroom for cleaning up the plastic in our landfills and littering our environment. A study out of Utrecht University found that other common mushroom species, like oyster mushrooms, which is edible, can also consume plastic. These studies also found that plastic-eating mushrooms remove pollutants from the soil and convert waste into biofuels. Humans are addicted to plastic. We must break the current cycle. We're drowning in plastic, and therefore a discovery like this could give our planet and its inhabitants a second lease on life. The effects of the plastic-eating bacteria are still being studied, and it's a long way from being the solution to the plastic crisis. But it shows that bacteria and other natural products can be used in environmentally friendly ways. So why is recycled art important? There are a number of benefits to recycled art. Perhaps the most important being extending the life of materials which are difficult, expensive, or impossible to recycle. Creating worthwhile, beautiful pieces of art, which will be cared for and admired, is important too. This understanding is perhaps why there are artists such as myself who create upcycled art. Many people love the idea about me using things in art, reusing things in art, and they don't necessarily know how to do it themselves. But there are so many things that you can do. When you look at an item before you throw it away, ask yourself, can this be used for something else? One example I'd like to share with you tonight is how to start seeds. When you think of planting seeds in a garden, most people go to a store and purchase seeds and the starter pots to begin the growing process. Instead, if you've had a good tomato, or say a good butternut squash, you can use the seeds right from that fruit or vegetable itself. Some do need to go through a winterizing stage where they need to be cold for 6 weeks. Place them in an envelope with the date into your refrigerator, and then when spring comes, you can take them out and use paper towels and toilet paper rolls as your pots. Simply cut them and fold the bottoms up to hold the soil and plant your collected seeds right in them. There's no need to buy those items as they're readily available. I get great satisfaction growing food this way, and it's really inspiring using old things. I hope my art inspires others to use what already exists, and if we all do our part, we can be helping future generations.